Hi everybody and welcome to another piano comparison video here at Merriam Pianos. Today we are looking at Kawai's Novus 5 and Novus 10, two very exciting instruments that are out on the market right now. They are brand new hybrid instruments combining full acoustic actions with the best digital technology. We have already done individual reviews on both the NV5 and the NV10, so if you're ready to dive right in on super specific information, you might want to check that out. This video is designed to answer really one question, which is why would you choose one versus the other? What are those critical differences between them? And what are some of the information that I can share with you that might help answer that question? So if it's the first time to the channel, please subscribe before we go any further. It'll help you to keep up to date with all of the videos that we're always coming out with. We'd love you to become part of our musical community. And without further ado, let's get started with the comparison right away. So we have the NV5 and the NV10, the two Novus models from Kawai, and we've got them side by side, and we are going to be doing a comparison for you, as we said in the introduction. The NV5 individual review, the NV10 individual review are amongst the most commented videos we've had on the channel. There's no doubt that these models have elicited a lot of interest and a lot of excitement from prospective and already existing piano owners. And so a comparison between these two was only natural, but probably also needed. I think a number of questions came up after the NV5 was posted, basically like, well, Stu, you obviously were gushing all over the NV5. Under what circumstance would we still consider the NV10? Like, what are the critical differences between these two? And is there one that's clearly better than the other? Blah, blah, blah. So we're going to address all of that. First, let's get to the similarities and the overall description if this is the first time you're hearing or seeing anything about this incredible NV series. So Kawai came out with, I think 2 years ago, they released their prototype NV10. And the whole idea here was this was Kawai bringing full-scale, regular acoustic piano actions into a hybrid digital. And along with that, they were going to partner with Onkyo, who is a high-end kind of stereo equipment maker, and really design what they felt at the time was going to be the absolute best digital piano experience that they were capable of delivering, regardless of price, regardless of cabinet shape or anything like that. And so they went after that project and delivered the NV10 first. So the NV10 on my left actually contains a full-scale Millennium III acoustic grand piano action in it. So that's exactly the same action that you're going to find in their GL series, their GX series, and more or less in their Shigeru series as well. The main difference is that instead of a real hammer, it simply has a synthetic hammer. It's kind of this very space-agey looking type of a hammer, and that's crossing an optical beam, which is detecting, speed and pitch, obviously, instead of a real hammer hitting the string. Other than that, you're basically looking at a full-scale action. The NV5 followed a year later, and every review that came out about the NV5 was just raving about this instrument. And now that I've got to know the instrument as well, I have to agree, it's a killer piano and uses a full-scale upright Millennium III action. So this is the same action that you'd be finding in Kawai's acoustics, such as the K200, K300, and up. From a geometry standpoint, the K200 is the closest to what you will find in the NV5. So we've got real acoustic actions being combined with really sensitive optical sensors to be sending a tone computer good information, good note information. And then we've got an Onkyo designed Onkyo Kawai hybrid amplification system and speaker system delivering just superbly clear tone. It's just fantastic. Both of these instruments have 135 watts of power. That's plenty. There's lots and lots to go around there. But their speaker systems are far from the same. So on the NV10, they've gone with a multi-speaker system with woofers on the bottom. And so you've got 4 dome tweeters on the top, and then you've got 2 large woofers underneath on the bottom. On the NV5, you've actually got 6 speakers, and so that's providing a lot of your mids and uppers, but then it's got a twin soundboard drive system. And so that's using a real spruce soundboard on the back of the piano with 2 Onkyo magnets that are driving it. So it's behaving just like a real soundboard. And so even though you have a similar power rating on these 2 instruments, and they have exactly the same tone engine driving these 2 instruments, let me tell you, the playing experience is very, very different. Both excellent, but different. To the point where I can't even necessarily say that one feels more authentically like an upright or one feels more authentically like a grand. Both actions feel great to me, and it's really the difference between how the sound is reaching your ear and the type of response that you really enjoy. So we've talked about the action, we've talked about the tone engine. Let's also just drill in to one aspect of the tone engine, which is that SKEX rendering. That's something that these models share, and it's Kawai's answer or version of the modeling software, something very similar to what Roland did with the V piano, and they have present in a few of their instruments. So this basically means that a computer model is generating a lot of the tone that you're hearing when you're in pianist mode, and it gives you infinite polyphony. It means that there is no such thing as too many notes that you can play. It's just going to continue to generate that sound, even if you hold the pedal and swipe up and down on the keys 5 or 6 times, no issue. Why would you even do that anyway? But I guess there is some comfort in knowing you'll never run out of polyphony. Outside of polyphony, there is just regular sound mode where you've got a large selection of tones such as E pianos, strings, organ, vocal, all manner of sound. And so I'm just going to give you a quick sample of the type of piano tone that these 2 instruments are capable of producing. So that is the SKEX sound engine that we're just hearing. Now if we go into regular sound mode, you still get 88 individually sampled notes in a 256 note max polyphony environment. And as we were just mentioning before, a number of other options as well, including the E pianos. And organs, church organs. There's some strings. And of course, I'm only touching on the categories. For each one of these categories, there are sometimes dozens of options within that category. Here's choir. and some pads and bass, etc., etc. And everything that you can get on the NV5, you can get on the NV10 and vice versa. There's also pre-recorded music on there, and like I said, everything is back-to-back. It's parallel between these two instruments. The control panels are exactly the same. The ports, although they offer the same, are actually configured slightly differently. This one has a wider set of ports all along the front, whereas the NV10 splits it. It's kind of got one in the front and then one further in the back. But they both give you USB to device, USB to host. That lets you record locally. It lets you plug this in to MIDI. It also has Bluetooth audio as well as Bluetooth MIDI, so that means it can transmit and receive Bluetooth MIDI and receive, but not transmit, Bluetooth audio. So you can actually hook up a phone or some other music source and use this ridiculous speaker system as the speaker system for your streaming music or whatever else. So lots of really, really cool things there. I should mention, if you haven't already noticed, that on the channel we do have individual reviews of both these instruments. So if you want to dig deeply into any one of these feature areas that I'm a little bit glossing over in this video, by all means just search those out. You'll find individual NV10 and NV5 reviews on the channel. So let's get to the differences. Why would somebody choose an NV10 over an NV5? Or vice versa, although I think probably the question is going to be asked more often, why spring for the NV10? Because there is a significant price difference between these two. I would say that the first is definitely action. Because these are real, authentic, upright and grand actions, just as you would find a difference if you were shopping traditional acoustic pianos, you're going to see that same difference or feel that same difference when you're playing these two. The upright feels like it's slightly shallower key action. It feels like it's a little bit lighter than actually what you find on the NV10. The repetition feels a little bit different. It behaves exactly like an upright. So think to yourself, if you had an acoustic upright and you liked both, an acoustic piano and you really enjoyed both, you were comparing an upright to a grand, you might choose that grand at a higher price point because you just like the action better. There are a lot of people who prefer the response and the sense of depth and, that you get on a grand, and you're going to observe that here. If you really enjoy playing on a great upright, then for the same reason, you might actually enjoy playing on the NV5. The second big difference, though, is the tone and the sound, how it's actually reaching your ear. We have line outs coming to you in this video from both of these instruments. So when I play this, and so this is set on classic mode. So on the video, it's probably going to sound virtually the same or almost the same as when I'm playing it on this. But in person, it sounds very different between these two instruments. And it's a little bit difficult to say that one automatically immediately jumps out as a better sound, but I'll try and describe the differences as I'm hearing them. So for one, on the NV10, the sound, just like on a grand, sounds a little more distant. It doesn't feel like there's a speaker pointed straight at my ear from any direction. It sort of sounds like the tone is coming from right about here, and there's a lot of room ambience that I'm getting with this too. So it's all kind of right here. And I am hearing the stereo field adjusting as I'm going from left to the right. Kind of like hearing it go, phase from one side to the other as I'm playing through the range. But there's definitely a distance that you're hearing in terms of where the focus of the tone is. And because of that, the treble also seems a little bit more dispersed. So this may be something that people prefer in terms of sound that they like. When I go over to here, and these are got identical settings on them. Rather than the tone being over here on the NV5, it's sounding like it's right there. And this is coming from a few different places. They've got this tone vent that's cut right here, and that actually gives you a little bit of indirect sound coming off the back of the speaker boxes that are here. You've also got these speakers up top here that are, again, delivering a slightly more direct sound. The other reason that there's such a big tonal difference between these instruments is the presence of that soundboard on the NV5 versus the woofers on the NV10. And it delivers such a substantially, totally differently charactered bass because you've got a much tighter, punchier in some ways, bass response on the NV10, but maybe a little less ambient and a little less warm. On the NV5, you feel like at a lower dynamic range, you're getting a better, wider bass response, even though it doesn't feel quite as tight when you really start to punch the volume. And so that all mixes together for just, it's, like I said, I keep saying it, but it's so different to play these two instruments side by side. I have an uprated home, and I've always really enjoyed instruments that gave me this immediate response with tone right up in my face. It always kind of gave me that a sense of intimacy and connection with the instrument. And so, my personal preference from a musical standpoint happens to be towards the NV5, if you could not tell that between the two individual reviews. But I'm going to put a gigantic asterisk there and say I recognize that that's less likely because the NV5 is necessarily better, and more because it delivers that type of immediate, much more close, intimate tonal response that I happen to like as a player. I know people that hate that type of experience. They find that there's just too much detail. They like a little bit of space between when the tone is created and when it hits their ear. They like to have a greater sense of the room around them as part of that acoustic, sonic experience. And so I think the NV10 does an exceptional job of simulating what an average, I'm going to say 5.5 to 6 foot grand piano does in terms of placing the center of tone 2 or 3 feet kind of in front of your head and you're getting a mix of both direct tone as well as ambient room tone back. And so those are the two big reasons why you might choose one versus the other. It's that huge difference in the configuration of the speakers, soundboard, no soundboard, woofers, no woofer really, but equal power, and the action. You know, we've got a grand action, simulates a grand wonderfully, and an upright action that does the same. I do feel like there was some tweak to how they dealt with the response curve, or the touch curve, I guess, the default touch curve on the NV5 versus the NV10, because I can get them to behave very similarly, but the NV10 takes a little bit of a tweak to get it there versus the NV5, which gives me, I think, a slightly more authentic, you know, touch response. So I don't think that's the difference in the sensor. I don't think it's difference in the action. I think that's actually probably, I'm guessing at this, a slightly different factory setting when it comes to the touch curve. Anyway, I really sincerely hope that if you are in the market for a hybrid piano, that you have the opportunity to try one, or ideally both of these side by side. They're so cool. This is definitely what the future of you know, piano looks like, or certainly one face of the future of what piano looks like. They're both incredibly musical and give you the option of playing totally silently, you know, hooked up to a computer for, you know, all kinds of fun composition and production. And, well, pretty much eliminate the maintenance factor that goes along with an acoustic. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Good luck with your shopping. My name is Stu Harrison. This has been the Merriam Pianos YouTube channel, and we will see you back for more shortly.